Part 44. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 431. Nan 11 said, "No wonder the ministers of Dongling didn't think I looked familiar when they saw us. Even if there is a portrait, it doesn't matter. You are a descendant of the Xianyuan royal family, and it is not surprising that you have a similar appearance to your ancestors." Rong Yu lowered his head and kissed her face. "Have you dreamed again these 2 days?" Yanan 11 nodded, silently looking up at him. "It's all your fault." "It's my fault." Rong Yu pursed his lips, with an expression of admitting his mistakes and accepting punishment. "What did you dream about?" "A lot." Nan 11 sighed, with a tone of regret. "Some repeated scenes are from previous dreams. I have seen it before, and I occasionally dream about it again these 2 days. From the first encounter to the close companionship, day and night, but I am actually quite surprised that you were born a ferocious wolf cub in your previous life, with a very arrogant temper." Rong Yu smiled. "If you are not a little bit ferocious and arrogant, how can you get the special look of the princess? The king sees too many people, servants in the mansion, sons and daughters of powerful families, elders of the royal clan, brothers and sisters of the clan, all kinds of people, either servile or flattering, or well-educated ladies, gentle and elegant sons of aristocratic families. It is indeed rare to have a temper like Rong Huijin in the previous life, who was born in a humble family but arrogant and unruly. And Rong Yu, who was born at the pinnacle of power in this life and was noble and looked up to, is obviously completely different from his previous life." Nan 11 asked, "Have you finished talking about your business?" "Yes." Rong Yu sat down beside her, his voice soft. "I know what Xiejin and the others are thinking, but I am not interested in the world, so it is normal for them to feel regretful. If our son has this courage, these people will be his most capable loyal ministers and generals." Nan 11 was silent for a moment. "I also feel that Xiejin and Xianyuanyao actually hope to follow you to expand the territory, conquer the world, and become a great and heroic emperor. If you are not even an emperor, how can you be a great and heroic emperor?" Rong Yu said softly. "I know what Xiejin and Xianyuanyao are thinking, but I don't know what they are thinking, but I don't know what they are thinking, so." Yu hugged her and said softly, "But if 11ER is interested, I can also expand the territory for 11ER, conquer the world, and become a heroic empress." Nan 11 laughed. "How do you know that I am an ambitious person? Let alone Nan 11 in this life, even Jing Shu in the previous life had to govern the territory of Dongling only out of responsibility. She never thought of conquering the world. Besides, Dongling has a female emperor every 200 years, isn't it because women have the softness of being content with the status quo?" Rong Yu's eyes were burning. "You can try to think about it." "Try to think about it?" Nan 11 really did what he said, and tried to frown and think about it. After a while, she slowly shook her head. "It's useless to think about it 100 times. I have no interest in the world at all." Rong Yu laughed. "I know, you are only interested in me." Nan 11 was slightly surprised, and then looked at him quietly. "Rong Yu." Rong Yu said in a low voice, "Your Majesty. Do you need me to remind you again? Please maintain your dignity as the regent. Majesty is for outsiders to see. What dignity do you need in front of 11ER? Rong Yu got up with Nan 11 in his arms and walked to the bed in the inner hall. "It's late at night, the spring night is short, we should do something beautiful and meaningful." Nan 11 hugged his neck and reminded him softly, "Your injury has not healed yet." "It doesn't affect it." Rong Yu interrupted her softly. "Your husband has enough physical strength." Nan 11 was embarrassed. The two fell on the bed together. The curtain fell, and the air warmed up. The overlapping figures behind the dragon-patterned curtain were lingering, and the bright moon shone through the window, making the room charming. It was a cold winter in December, with dry and cold weather. One of the newly crowned couple was pregnant and needed to rest, while the other was seriously injured and needed to recuperate. And because of the new year, the Empress issued an order to suspend the court, and officially resumed the morning court on the 6th day of the first lunar month after the New Year. So Nan 11 and Rongyu stayed in Dajhan Palace for the whole December, and they handled all the important affairs of the court that the chief assistant and the prime minister could handle. If they couldn't handle it, they would send someone to Dajhan Palace, and Rongyu would make the final decision. There was harmony and peace inside and outside the court. However, the calm was just an illusion, or rather, such peace was only the peace of some people. Xian Yuanyao became busy, staying in the military camp for most of the month, and almost never went to the palace. Xiejin seemed to be lingering in the flowers, but in fact, he used different methods every day to get the information he wanted from those young men. Mo Lingen was busy receiving intelligence from all directions, and the tamed eagle in his hand also brought orders to the people of Juxiao Pavilion all over the country. The situation in various countries is destined to change dramatically. It was New Year's Eve in a blink of an eye. According to the custom of the Dongling royal family, the emperor holds a banquet on New Year's Eve every year, and civil and military officials and royal relatives enter the palace to accompany the emperor to stay up all night, singing and dancing, and celebrating the peace and prosperity of Dongling. This year is the first New Year's Eve after Nan 11 ascended the throne, so naturally he has to give some face to the ministers. Besides, Rongyu's injury is no longer serious. After drinking the soup for half a month, almost even his breath tastes bitter. The New Year's Day is the most important day of the year except for the coronation ceremony. No one would be stupid enough to find unhappiness on such an occasion, so the atmosphere is lively and cheerful, the ministers are happy, and the brilliant fireworks are set off almost all night. Nan 11 sat on the dragon throne, her obsidian-like eyes reflecting the scene of the emperor and his subjects rejoicing together, the sky full of gorgeous fireworks, the stage singing operas about peace and prosperity, and a strong and gentle man accompanying her and protecting her. Everything was so beautiful. The only ones who were forced to stay in Dongling as guests were the northern frontier crown prince Duan Muyu and the southern Yu prime minister Su Chang. They were completely unable to blend into the festive atmosphere and their moods could not be improved. However, whether they were in a good mood or not, the Dongling monarch and his ministers probably would not care, and they did not care. After New Year's Eve is the New Year. According to the rules of previous years, in addition to staying up all night, the ministers also need to go to the palace to pay New Year's greetings on the morning of the first day of the New Year. It is hard to be a minister, and it is not easy to sleep well all year round. However, this year they met a pair of slightly willful masters. When the New Year's Eve banquet ended at midnight, Nan 11 announced the end of the banquet and issued an order to exempt the ministers from the etiquette of paying New Year's greetings in the morning, so that they could stay at home to eat dumplings with their wives, families, and children for a reunion. Of course, Nan 11 and Rongyu also ate dumplings, but they ate them in the princess's mansion. The two slept until the morning before getting up. After washing and dressing, they took a sedan chair out of the palace and went straight to the princess's mansion. By the way, I called Xian Yuanyao, who was left alone in the imperial capital and could not reunite with his parents. Xian Yuan 11 got up early in the morning and made a lot of dumplings and glutinous rice balls with the cook in the mansion, and put the washed small silver coins into the dumplings. He said to the two people who had been staying in the deep palace to recuperate for days and closed the door, "Other families eat dumplings in the morning, are you two rushing to eat in the evening?" Xian Yuanyao hurriedly smoothed things over for the two people, "It's still early, not even noon." Author's words. I have been decorating the house these 2 days and running around. The update is unstable. I have to take time to write, but I will try my best to ensure 4,000 updates. I'm sorry to make everyone wait for the article. The plot has exciting climaxes, and there will also be dull moments. Life will not be ups and downs every moment. Moreover, there are more words now, so it is inevitable that there will be weak moments. I have tried my best to write some outstanding supporting roles when the main character's plot is dull. I have said it more than once. If you want to abandon the article, just abandon it without notifying me. Every author has his or her own style. I can't write in the style of others, so don't ask me to read it, let alone compare it in my book review area. You can read the book of someone you like several times, and you can memorize it. It has nothing to do with me. Every reader has different tastes. Some people like the main character's plot to be the same, while others will get bored after reading too much of the main character. I can't meet everyone's needs, so you can make appropriate requests, but if it's excessive, please abandon the article. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 432. Nan 11 glanced at him. Are you causing trouble or assisting? Xian Yuanyao smiled innocently, I'm just telling the truth. It's still early before dark at this hour. Rong Yunan 11 turned around and summoned the thugs. Xian Yuanyao said he has itchy skin, you can figure it out yourself. Rong Yu came over and put his arm around her shoulders, saying calmly, after using the dumplings, go to the military camp to get 50 military sticks. This is unfair, Xian Yuanyao protested, my lord, this is abusing your private power and refusing to obey me. If you don't accept it, hold it in. Nan 11 smiled softly and harmlessly, I have begged you before, do you think the person who will beg you this time will be? Xian Yuanyao was angry. Yao Yao, don't pay attention to them. The eldest princess came over and took Xian Yuanyao's hand, as if she loved her son. These two have been bad at it recently. You have me to support you, so don't be afraid. Xian Yuanyao blinked, and the eldest princess touched his head, be good. Xian Yuanyao coughed lightly. Good. He is obviously an adult, please don't treat him like a child, okay? But if you have a backer, you won't be able to rely on it. He lowered his head and said in a particularly gentle tone, thank you, Aunt. Your father, queen, mother, and concubines are not in the imperial capital. If you have any troubles in the future, you can come to me. Xian Yuanyao smiled gently, if anyone dares to bully you, just come and tell me and I will support you. Xian Yuanyao felt warm in his heart and said sincerely, thank you, Aunt. But Nuan Ginyuan, he didn't dare to really complain. In this huge imperial capital, no one else can bully him. Even if the only person he fears bullies him, he will have to suffer, right? Dare to complain? How brave is he? Nan 11 looked at her mother sourly, Mom, to be honest, don't you feel sorry for not having a son these years? It's such a pity. Xian Yuan 11 glanced at her, especially after giving birth to a daughter, you still don't get to know me. All day long, you have one husband and one husband, as they say, a married daughter throws away the water. Can I not regret it? Nan 11 pondered for a moment, how about I divorce Rong Yu now and just stay with my mother from now on? No. Rong Yu hugged her shoulders tightly and looked at her with a frown, in a few days, I will ask Xiejin to send all the young men in his courtyard over. They are all as beautiful as flowers and are good at serving others. They will definitely. If you want to satisfy your mother-in-law, don't make random decisions. Nan 11. Xian Yuanyao coughed lightly and couldn't help but look up at the sky. Xian Yuan 11 also had a speechless expression on her face. She glanced at Rong Yu and his wife, then took Xian Yuanyao's hand and walked towards the dining room. From the palace to here to the time when the dumplings are cooked, the hour has passed, and in a little while it will be time for lunch. The maids were serving out the hot dumplings when Xian Yuan 11 asked, are you tired from the military training these 2 days? Fortunately, Xian Yuanyao replied humbly, things in the military camp are easy for me to handle. It's much easier to worry about than the intrigues in the court. You're right. Military generals are admirable. Don't imitate those sour Confucian ministers who are full of conspiracies and scheming. Even their smiles are full of hypocrisy, which is very disgusting. Xian Yuan 11 brought him a bowl of dumplings. Let him sit down and eat, In order to comply with folk customs, I ask someone to put some broken silver into this dumpling. If you eat it, you will definitely have good luck in the coming year. Rongyu and Nan 11 hadn't come in yet, so Xianyu and Yao didn't dare to sit down first and stood aside obediently without moving. At this moment, another respectful voice sounded outside, "Your Highness, Prince Chi and General Chu are here." Nan 11 raised her eyebrows. Do they have sharp noses and know the right time to come here to eat dumplings? Hurry up and let them in. There are so many people, Xianyuan 11 said with a smile. I specially asked people to make more dumplings, which are enough to eat. Xianyuan Yao said sincerely, if Prince Chi comes at this time, he has probably already eaten the dumplings. Yes, that's right, Xianyuan 11 nodded calmly and joked. Only the current emperor and the regent are two lazy people who don't get up until this hour. Nan 11 sighed softly. Rongyu, is 50 military sticks enough? I think the new year should be auspicious, and 80 sounds better. Rongyu nodded. 11 is right. Xianyuan Yao took a step back and shut his mouth consciously. Who earned himself 80 military sticks early in the morning. Walking in with Xianyuan Qi and Chu Hong'ai was Xiejin, the most elegant ninth master of the Xie family. His eyes turned slightly and fell on Xianyuan Yao. On the face, Yao Yao. Prince Qi and Chu Hong'ai greeted him respectfully and said a few words of congratulations. Xianyuan Yao frowned. Master, please be more serious. Xiejin chuckled and saluted Rongyu and Nan 11 gracefully. See Her Majesty the Queen. See the regent. I wish your majesty and the regent a happy new year and good health. After saying that, he saluted Xianyuan 11 again. Xiejin wishes New Year's greetings to Her Royal Highness, the eldest princess, and wishes her beauty to remain as beautiful as a flower forever. Xieziaju has such a sweet mouth. Xianyuan 11 smiled. It's completely different from what outsiders say. Xianyuan Qi smiled and said, that's because the Xie family's little nine have two faces. They are well behaved in front of their aunt and princess, but they look fierce in front of outsiders, so everyone evaluates him differently. That's right, aunt, don't let his beautiful and harmless appearance fool you. He is actually a wolf cub that eats people without spitting out their bones. Xianyuan Yao nodded. He looks human-like, but he is actually full of evil. Xiejin's eyes deepened slightly, and a smile rose at the corner of his mouth. I haven't seen you for a few days. Prince Yao's words are getting more and more pleasant. Xianyuan 11 looked at these happy juniors, and couldn't help but feel more relaxed and happy. She smiled and said, hurry up and sit down to eat dumplings, or they will get cold if you don't eat them. As he said that, he ordered people to prepare bowls and chopsticks. Xianyuan Yao was actually right. On the first day of the Chinese New Year, families usually eat dumplings early. After eating dumplings in the morning, the children of the family will follow their fathers to pay New Year's greetings to the elders who are close to them. For those who are farther away, they usually use the method of paying New Year's greetings instead. It is also a rare opportunity for the powerful and noble families to reunite and visit relatives and friends in a year. However, for someone of Prime Minister Xie's status, of course, there were more people wishing him a happy new year. He only needed to sit at home and wait to entertain the guests. The Xie family had many sons, and at this time, everyone needed to come out to greet and deal with these etiquettes. However, Xiejin had always been too lazy to deal with these. When he heard that Her Majesty the Queen and the regent had entered the princess's mansion in a sedan chair, he simply came to join in the fun. When he arrived at the gate, he met Xianyuan Qi and Chu Hong'ai who came to wish the princess a happy new year, and they came in together. At this time, they had already finished eating dumplings, but men have a big appetite, so it is no problem to come to the princess's mansion for another meal. So the princess called them, and several people sat down. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 433. How is Hong Ai's health recently? After sitting down, Nan 11 looked at Chu Hong Ai. Do you feel unwell? Not bad. Chu Hong Ai's voice was light, but when answering Nan 11's question, she consciously put down her chopsticks. The child is not very noisy, the appetite is also good, and the fetal gas is not very heavy. Nan 11 hummed, that's good, cousin should pay more attention to it. Your Majesty, don't worry. Xian Yuan Qi smiled, Hong Ai is now the jewel in the crown of the master of the Jingwang mansion. My father and mother are in a good relationship. I put her first, fearing that she would be wronged, and even my son stood aside. Nan 11 smiled and said, I seem to hear a strong sense of boasting. Chu Hong Ai picked up the chopsticks and picked up a dumpling from her bowl and gave it to Xian Yuan Qi. Good luck to you. Xian Yuan Qi lowered his eyes and looked at the dumplings in his bowl. The smile on the corner of his lips was filled with inexplicable joy. He picked up the dumpling without saying a word and put it in his mouth and took a bite. Then his teeth hit something hard, which hurt a little. He subconsciously hissed. Everyone at the table looked up at him at the same time. Xian Yuan Qi pushed the tip of his tongue towards the hard object, and a silver-white object came out. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, he calmly reached out and took out a piece of broken silver. A brief silence. Everyone finally knew what Chu Hong Ai meant by saying that good luck was given to him. General Chu hasn't eaten it yet, but he knows that there is blessing in this dumpling. Xian Yuanyao was surprised, it's amazing. Chu Hong Ai was not good at small talk, and she just said indifferently, it's not difficult. She wanted to say that this was nothing amazing, and anyone could do it, but the result of speaking concisely was that the sentence was shortened to 2 words, which sounded a little more cold. Fortunately, everyone present knew her temperament and didn't think too much. Thank you, Madam. Xian Yuan Qi turned his head and looked at her, his black eyes were gentle and smiling, full of doting. Today's dumplings made me taste like glutinous rice balls, too sweet. Nan 11 couldn't stand his corniness, and coughed lightly. With so many people here, Prince Ji should pay attention to his image. Hearing this, Xian Yuan Qi glanced at Rong Yu subtly, wondering if Her Majesty had forgotten the nature of the regent. But he just lowered his eyes and smiled, yes, I will pay attention. Actually, there is a question I have been holding back for a long time. Xian Yuanyao's eyes turned between Nan 11 and Xian Yuan Qi, and he frowned and said, I just don't know whether to ask it or not. Nan 11 was surprised, what question? Xiejin also looked at him, Prince Yao, if you have any doubts in your heart, just ask, are you afraid of who will eat you? Is the relationship between Her Majesty and me now cousins or cousins? Huh? The people present were stunned. Cousins or cousins, this question still needs to be thought about. Xiejin's expression was a little strange. Prince Yao won't be unable to sleep because of this question. Xian Yuanyao shook his head, that's not the case. He was just confused. You and 11 are of course cousins. Xian Yuan 11 laughed, otherwise, why do you call me aunt, not aunt? They are indeed cousins in terms of blood relationship. An aunt is a real aunt, how can you call her randomly? Xian Yuanyao was silent for a moment, but Your Majesty and I have the same surname, Xian Yuan, so we are brothers and sisters from the same clan. I didn't expect Yao Yao to be obsessed with this issue. Xian Yuan 11 smiled lightly, it's rare. Xian Yuanyao looked at her suspiciously. Is it strange to be obsessed with this issue? There is a big difference between cousins and cousins. Before, I always thought that after my cousin ascended the throne, she and I were cousins. Xian Yuanyao explained, if we are cousins, she and I are a family. If we are cousins, in principle, we can get married. Prince Yao Xiejin interrupted him slowly, have you been arrogant again recently? Xian Yuanyao was stunned, and felt a cold light coming straight at him. He turned his head and looked at Rong Yu's cold eyes, and his scalp was numb immediately. "That's not what I meant," he explained quickly and raised his hand with sincerity. "I have no desire for your majesty, really, your majesty is very clear." Rong Yu lowered his head expressionlessly and picked up a few dumplings for Nan 11, saying gently, "Eat slowly." At that moment, Xian Yuanyao felt that he was treated very differently, and his heart was sour. He couldn't help but mutter, "I want to be reborn as a woman in the next life." A low laugh sounded. Xiejin laughed very happily. "I didn't expect that as a military general, Prince Yao actually has a girl's soul in his heart." Xian Yuanyao glared at him. "Xiejin, don't go too far. Believe it or not, I will throw you into the military camp and let you taste the taste of military sticks." Xiejin was about to say something, but saw Nan 11 slowly use the tip of her tongue to push out a piece of broken silver. Rong Yu reached out to take it and put it on the table. Ju Ye raised his eyebrows. No wonder he asked her to eat slowly. However, this was just the beginning. There was a silver coin in every dumpling that Nan 11 ate. Although the people present didn't know how much the princess and the maids had put in the dumplings, as the silver coins in front of Nan 11 piled up, even Nan 11 herself felt a little embarrassed. It seemed that she had tasted the blessing. Others, except for the dumpling that Chu Hongii gave to Xian Yuanqi, had not seen anyone else eat the blessing. "Auntie, are you biased on purpose?" Xian Yuanyao was dissatisfied. "Why didn't I get any blessing?" Xian Yuan 11 glanced at the untouched dumplings in front of him. "If you had eaten a dumpling instead of just talking nonsense, you wouldn't have said such a thing." Xian Yuanyao was silent, then smiled awkwardly. Whenever Xiejin and Xian Yuanyao were there, there was no need to worry about not being able to stir up the atmosphere. The few people sitting at the table, Rong Yu focused on taking care of Nan 11, Xian Yuanqi took care of Chu Hongii wholeheartedly, and Xiejin and Xian Yuanyao brought up topics from time to time, and the chat was somewhat relaxing. It looked like they were really having fun. Xian Yuan 11 sat in the main seat, smiling at the excitement of these young people sitting together, and felt very comfortable. They had a happy and enjoyable meal of dumplings. Xian Yuan 11 usually didn't like to put on airs, and was very peaceful to the maids in the mansion. After the maids brought the dumplings of their masters, they were all sent to the side hall by Xian Yuan 11 to eat dumplings. After eating, she gave a big red envelope to all the younger generations present, then called the maid in the mansion over and told them, everyone in the mansion should give 20 taels of silver each, so that everyone can celebrate the festival. The maid smiled and replied, "Yes. I have the most blessings today." Nan 11 said, "What surprise do you have for me, mother? You already have the whole world, and you have a husband who loves you the most. What other surprises do you want?" Xian Yuan 11 said, "My surprise is for Yao Yao." "Me?" Xian Yuanyao was surprised. "What surprise do I have?" "The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered." Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 434. I have nothing to do in the mansion for the past 2 days. I chatted with the ladies of the aristocratic family, Xian Yuan 11 said with a smile. Many ladies of the imperial capital have reached the age of marriage. Previously, due to the emperor's grandson, several noble ladies were the candidates for the crown prince stayed in the boudoir. After 11 ascended the throne, their marriage was naturally brought up. Because of Chi'er's marriage, the wives of each family became more and more worried about their daughters. Aunt Xian Yuanyao understood what she meant, and his expression became a little tangled. "The surprise you mentioned is not that you want to propose marriage to me, right?" Xiejin, who was sitting aside, heard this and looked up at him casually, then calmly picked up a dumpling and put it into his mouth. "It's not about marriage," Xian Yuan 11 said with a gentle smile. "It's just about holding a flower viewing banquet in my mansion and inviting young men and girls from various families to come and have fun. If you have someone you like, I will take advantage of the opportunity to do it for you." I will inform your father, the queen, mother, and concubine in a letter when the time comes. What kind of surprise is this? Xianyuanyaobai was so happy that he couldn't help but murmured, it's not like I said I won't find a wife. Do I need to be in such a hurry? Xianyuan11 raised his eyebrows, you don't want to. It's not that I don't want to, I just don't have the time. Xianyuanyao thought about the task Rong Yu had just assigned him. Training soldiers was much more difficult than getting married. If the job was messed up because of a woman, how could he have the dignity to call himself a military commander? Moreover, although we have not yet faced a major enemy, military generals are not as keen as civil servants in terms of the sense of power, but he is not a fool. Emperor Dongling is not the only one who is qualified to take the post of military general. The Lord gave him the opportunity. It is because of trust and respect, and also because the wealth and water do not fall into the hands of outsiders. However, if he fails to live up to his expectations, the Lord will have no reason to protect him. Once the military power falls into the hands of other generals. In short, for now, we should still focus on the overall situation, and the love between children and children should be put aside for the time being. He is not like the master who has 3 heads and 6 arms. While he cares about me and me, he is affectionate, and at the same time he can handle government affairs in an orderly manner without delaying the official business at all. So he said seriously, "Aunt, I am only 19 years old this year. It is too early to marry now." "Is it early?" Xianyuan11 glanced at Xianyuanqi and said, "Qi seems to be the weakest this year." Xianyuanqi nodded. "Look, Qi is only 1 year older than you. He has a wife and a child. That's because Qi Shizi has had a sweetheart for a long time, and he wants to marry his sweetheart home and support him." Xianyuanyao said, "I am different from him." Xianyuan11 was silent for a moment and nodded slowly, thinking that what he said made sense. "Then when do you think it's not too early to marry a wife?" "Let's wait at least another 3 to 5 years." Xianyuanyao thought for a while. The noble girls of the imperial family should get married, and there is no need to wait for anyone. The time in a girl's family is precious and cannot be wasted. When I want to get married, next time the little girls have grown up again, and I don't have to worry about not being able to marry a beautiful girl. "What are you talking about?" Xianyuan11 laughed and cursed, "Do you still want an old cow to eat young grass?" Hearing this, Xianyuanyao glanced at Rong Yu subconsciously and said in a calm tone, "The regent married His Majesty, who is 16 years old, at the age of 22. Is it considered an old cow eating young grass?" Rong Yu stopped holding the dumplings, then raised his eyes slowly and looked over. Xianyuanyao's eyes narrowed slightly, pretending to be calm. "Rong Yu is good-looking and strong. He is a perfect match for me." Nan 11 smiled softly, "Prince Yao, if you can meet someone who makes you attracted in the future, age will not be a problem either." "Thank you for your kind words, Your Majesty." Xianyuanyao said humbly, "I also hope to meet you soon." Although he said this, he refuted silently in his heart. He would not be tempted by a woman. Emotions are the most harmful thing. Look at the harm the Lord has been doing all day long. And Xiejin, a grown man, screams "Ayao" and "Yao Yao" all day long. Not only is he disgusting, but it also makes people think that he is a pretty boy who is eating soft food. I really don't know what he is like. It seems that I have wasted all my efforts." Xianyuan11 sighed, "I also planned to find a beautiful and gentle girl to pamper you, but I didn't expect that you didn't want her." Xianyuanyao quickly shook his head, determined not to. He was sure that as long as he nodded, the ladies from the imperial family would flock over in a few days. After all, the current emperor was a woman, and it would be impossible for those noble ladies to enter the palace to serve the emperor. Marriage is about being from the right family. Most of the noble girls who are eligible to enter the palace come from a good family. When choosing a husband, you naturally have to choose someone with a good family background and good conduct. In fact, there are not many suitable children among the royal clan. Xian Yuanqi is already married, so don't think about the position of the head wife. Something has happened to Xian Yuanyan of the Wei Palace, so it is not considered at all. The only one left is Yu Shizi of the Huai family. The Prince Yao of the Wang family in Huainan. The families of powerful ministers and nobles include Xiejian, the son of the chief minister, the son of the prime minister, Mo Suanwu, the son of the Mahist family, the legitimate son of the eldest son of the Su family, the two sons of the second son-in-law Su, and the sons of several cabinet lords. There are quite a few men who can get married. But which of the ladies from the imperial family is not a human spirit? In addition to being well matched, marriage must also consider the status in front of the Holy Emperor. If you are the favorite of the Holy Emperor, your status will undoubtedly increase. If you stand on the opposite side of the Holy Emperor, sooner or later you will be dead. That's why during this period of time, ladies from various families rush to visit the eldest princess, in order to find out the temperaments and preferences of Her Majesty the Queen and the Prince Regent, consciously or unconsciously, and to find out some trends so that they could choose a suitable husband for their daughter. Otherwise, if you only find someone with a suitable family background, if you do something wrong in the future and are punished by the regent, it will be too late to regret. Actually, I think what mother said makes sense. Nan 11 said, although there are many gentle and beautiful girls in the imperial capital, this year is a special year. It cannot be said that they were delayed by Xian Yuanyan, but it is true that many girls have stayed in the boudoir because of Xian Yuanyan, ranging from 16 or 17 years old to 14 or 15 years old. If you look for it now, you can choose from all kinds of girls. After a few years, the girls of the right age will all be married, and you may not be able to find a suitable one so readily. Marriage cannot be forced. I am not in a hurry. Xian Yuanyao shook his head, and suddenly a light flashed in his mind. He suddenly raised his eyes and looked at Xiejian. Isn't Mr. Xieju also not married? Since there are so many girls from the imperial capital's aristocratic families left, Your Majesty can just arrange a marriage for him. In this way, he can save himself from saying some irresponsible words every day. Xian Yuanyao secretly thought that if there really was a woman who could control this evildoer, he would definitely applaud. Why does Prince Yao care about me so much? Xiejin raised his eyes to look at him, with a smile on his lips. I have countless concubines in my backyard, do I need you to worry about my marriage? The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 435. Xian Yuanyao was speechless for a moment. You have countless concubines, but none of them are serious. The top priority is to marry a lady of the family and continue the Xie family's incense. If they were outside now, the two of them would probably be poor again. But in front of the eldest princess, an elder, Xiejin finally restrained himself. Hearing this, he only smiled and said, my dad is not in a hurry. Why are you in a hurry? You can think of me as your father, Xian Yuanyao blurted out. When he finished speaking, he was surprised to realize what he had said. Although he saw something wrong with Xiejin's expression, the feeling of taking advantage still made him a little proud. Ahem, although I'm about the same age as you, if you call me daddy, I'm willing to recognize you as your son. Nan 11 looked at him silently, her eyes falling on the face of a certain prince who couldn't hide his embarrassment. She couldn't help but feel weird. How could someone take advantage of him like this? Prince Yao is so cute that it makes your hands itch. Xiejin cracked his wrists and cracked his knuckles. I think it is necessary to discuss with you. Do you want to choose a good and auspicious day? Xian Yuanyao looked at him provocatively. If you are not afraid of death, we will go to the military camp to compete. The rules are the same as the last time we competed with the Lord. Whoever loses will get a military stick. Xiejin looked at him silently, his eyes a little unpredictable. Do you have a special liking for military sticks? He never strays from his military stick. People who don't know him think he has some special hobby. Xianyuan 11 looked at the two of them with a smile. It is said that the ninth son of the Xie family has a perverse temperament and is difficult to get along with. The rumors cannot be believed at all. When Xiejin heard this, his expression suddenly changed, and he said elegantly and humbly, "Your Royal Highness the eldest princess is wise. My nephew is occasionally a little willful, but most of the time he still abides by the rules. He just can't help others adding jealousy, and my nephew can't help it, right? You can't block it? People's mouths are not allowed to speak." As soon as he said this, not only Xianyuan Yao, but also Xianyuan Qi and Nan 11 couldn't help but cast complicated looks at him. Does he follow the rules? What a great rule to follow. Looking at the entire imperial capital, there is nothing that Xiejiju dare not do, and there is no one that Xiejiju dare not offend. Xiejin just pretended that he didn't see the eyes of several people. His handsome face was filled with joy and calmness. The smile at the corner of his lips looked so sincere. His pair of charming phoenix eyes revealed a lot of elegance. He was really a man of all ages. Eat, Xianyuan 11 couldn't help but praise in his heart just by looking at it. This boy from the Xie family is so good looking. No wonder so many women fell in love with him. Yao's appearance is also outstanding, and she is eye-catching. But why doesn't such an outstanding man want to get married? Are you full? Wrong. You seem to have completely ignored the movements of everyone at the table. He focused on Nan 11 the whole time and saw her put down her chopsticks. Would you like another bowl? I'm full. Nan 11 gently stroked her bulging belly. If you eat more, you'll be full. Wrong. You put down his chopsticks, go sit on the couch in the inner room for a while and drink some water to moisten yourself. Nan 11 hummed and looked at her mother. You really don't have to worry about Crown Prince Yao's wedding. It's a time when people in all the major families are anxious, and what happened in Prince Wei's mansion comes at the right time. It will make people think that he and Rong Yu took this opportunity to suppress the former emperor's grandson. They wanted to take sides, express their position, and pry into the emperor's heart. They had all kinds of thoughts. If you ignore one of them, the others will be eager to find you. It's hard for you to calm down. Xianyuan 11 smiled lightly. You think I don't understand their thoughts? Just being idle is also idle. I sit down with them to drink tea and enjoy flowers. There are so many people and it's so lively. Whether it's true or false, in short, I feel that there are so many people. Lively joy. Mother knows everything else, don't worry. Nan 11 nodded and pondered for a moment. Do you have any idea of moving into the palace? What are you moving into the palace for? Xianyuan 11 raised his eyebrows. Being the queen mother. Don't forget who your father is. He is not the emperor, and I am not the queen mother. You just want to be your queen. My identity will not change because of you. The queen will change. When Nan 11 heard this, she rarely thought of Nan Xingzi. I wonder how my father's family is doing now. Mr. Nan's life is not very good, Xiejin said leisurely. Life is not easy when you have no money. Besides, Mr. Nan used to be a master and was supported by everyone. Now he is idle at home. He has no money and no power. Everyone can ridicule him, and they are naturally in a bad mood. The Li family and their daughter, who used to be loved like jewels, have become the targets of anger. They are beaten and scolded all day long, and their life is simply miserable. As he spoke, he sighed. I really agree with the saying, you can be forgiven for the sins committed by God, but you can't live for the sins you do yourself. Nan 11 was a little surprised. Xiejin, you actually know so much about the situation of the Nanda family in Dazhu. What's this? Xiejin slowly raised his eyebrows. Not only the southern master of the great Zhou dynasty, but also Yeqing Cheng of the Shu kingdom also know the situation between the regent Lin Ao of the western Qi dynasty and the little emperor, and when will an outbreak occur in northern Xinjiang? Small-scale wars, everywhere in the world, the news is under control. Tisk. He is really a know-it-all. Nan 11 chuckled and asked, by the way, how are Princess Jingcheng and Yunting doing now? Xiejin said, the wife sings and the husband follows, and the cooperation is seamless. The Emperor of Shu has not passed away yet. I guess it will be soon, Xiejin said. After Ye Qingcheng returned, the princes all took the initiative to get close to her. The purpose was naturally to find out about Prince Ye Yan, but they did not expect that Ye Qingcheng would play them around. Now Ye Qingcheng He Yunting has taken control of the court step by step. As long as the emperor writes the imperial edict, his death will probably not be far away. An imperial edict? Nan 11 frowned. Who will the emperor pass the throne to? Ye Qingcheng. Nan 11 was surprised. Qingcheng also wants to be the empress. No, Xiejin shook his head. Ye Qingcheng's ultimate goal is not to be the empress, but to seize the country and give it to Yunting's nephew. However, not to mention that the boy from the Yun family was still the son of a criminal official. Even if he had an upright identity, the emperor would not be able to pass the throne to a son with a different surname, and the civil and military officials and princes of the entire dynasty would not agree. Therefore, if Ye Qingcheng can successfully win the throne, after the court is stabilized and she and Yunting have all the power in their hands, they can adopt Yunting's nephew as their son, support his son as his heir, and slowly choose another when the time is right, let him ascend to the throne directly. Only then will it be justified. It's just that there has never been a precedent for a woman to ascend the throne in Shu, so this matter is a bit difficult and requires a lot of thought. Secondly, Yun Rui's identity is too sensitive. Ye Qingcheng and Yunting will not let him be exposed to the eyes of outsiders until they are absolutely sure. Therefore, seizing power still requires patience. The author has something to say. As for the occasional complaints made by Rong Yu's subordinates in their hearts or their poor words, most of them were actually meant to be teasing. No one would really be disrespectful to Nan 11, and Rong Yu would not allow this to happen. These people just have different temperaments and their own style of speaking. In fact, in formal occasions or in front of Nan 11, all of them are very well behaved. Good night. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 436. Nan 11 was silent for a moment. The Yun clan was devastated by the emperor. Apart from Yunting, his brother had only Yun Rui, the only one left. He did not expect that Ye Qingcheng would directly let the son of the guilty minister become the emperor. This method of revenge simply crushed the face of the Shu royal family to the ground. Probably only a fierce woman like Ye Qingcheng could think of letting Yun Rui inherit the throne. However, the change of imperial power is not something that can be accomplished overnight. Not to mention that it is difficult for Princess Ye Qingcheng to defeat other princes and ascend to the throne. Simply speaking, it will take at least 7 or 8 years or even more to train Yun Rui to become a qualified emperor. A long time, and during this time, Ye Qingcheng and Yunting could just use it to accumulate power, win over their close ministers, and cultivate connections in the court. The most important thing is to control the military, or to subdue the generals who have the military power. Therefore, the kingdom of Shu will definitely not be peaceful in the past 2 years. Nan 11 and Rong Yu rarely came to the eldest princess's mansion, so they naturally wanted to chat with their mother for a while. Xian Yu and Qi and Chu Hong'ai finished their dumplings and stayed to sit with Nan 11 and Rong Yu for a while before getting up and leaving. They also want to go to Chu's house to pay New Year's greetings to their father-in-law and mother-in-law. Prince Chi has gone to pay New Year's greetings to his father-in-law. Prince Yao still wants to stay here. Xiejin drank a cup of tea and turned to look at Xianyuan Yao. Do you want to go to Xia's house to join in the fun? Xianyuan Yao was puzzled. Why go to Xia's house to join in the fun? What fun is there to join in the Xia family? Thank you for having so many family members. There are dramas everywhere. It's wonderful. I'm not interested in your family's intrigues at all. Xianyuan Yao sneered, but quickly put down the teacup, stood up, and saluted Xianyuan 11, and, I have to go to the military camp, so I'll take my leave for now. I wish my aunt a happy new year and good health. Today is the first day of the Lunar New Year. Can't you take a day off? Xianyuan 11 frowned. The soldiers are also working very hard. Today, the first day of the Lunar New Year, I will go with them. Xianyuan Yao explained. I stayed in the military camp to eat lunch with the soldiers. The Obsidian Army and the Suanjia Army got up before dawn this morning and made dumplings. Originally, he planned to stay in the military camp to eat dumplings with them. General Ling had to leave after the Chinese New Year. In the past 2 days, he had been cooperating with the two to reorganize army, but the Lord has invited him, so he dare not come. Xianyuan 11 smiled slightly when he heard this. As a general, you can always think about the soldiers. You are a good general. Xianyuan Yao was humble. This is what a general should do. So Xianyuan 11 didn't say anything more, just told him to take good care of herself and not to work too hard, and then let him leave. Before leaving, Rong Yu asked him to inform him to enter the palace with Ling Fan in the evening, and Xianyuan Yao agreed. Then Rong Yu borrowed the study room of the eldest princess's mansion and called Xiejin over to talk about business, leaving Nan 11 and her daughter to have some intimate words. It's been a bit cold these 2 days. Please take care of yourself in the palace. Your body is special right now. Don't catch the wind and cold. Xianyuan 11 ordered a soft blanket to cover Nan 11's legs. I haven't been here during this time. The palace is really busy and I can't get away. Nan 11 leaned lazily on the soft couch. Mom has been away from Dongling for more than 10 years. It's really time to get familiar with the people and environment here again. There are too many people who have come to make friends with me. Xianyuan 11 sighed. Sure enough, people interact with each other based on their status, and their attitude in speaking and doing things completely depends on each other's status and has nothing to do with the person himself. Relation. Nan 11 was silent for a moment, understanding what she meant. Her mother had concealed her identity as a princess during the Great Zhou dynasty. Outsiders only knew that she was a merchant girl. No matter how fair she was in dealing with others, how considerate she was to her husband, how generous she was to her concubines and concubines, how gentle she was to her servants, she even tried her best to. Even though she was a virtuous and dignified wife, she still couldn't change the contempt and prejudice of the ladies of high families towards her. Ridiculed, trampled on, even his daughter Nan 11 also suffered from the ridicule and disdain of the noble ladies. Although after resurrecting her life, Nan 11 no longer cares about the hostile attitude of others, but those unkind words and looks are always with her. As long as she and her mother appear in any place with a lot of people, they will always arouse cynicism. It was not until Rong Yu deposed the emperor and imprisoned the queen mother that those voices disappeared. But now, she is still her, and her mother is still her mother. They still have the same appearance and temperament. Except for the change in identity, everything else is the same as before. But the nobles and powerful wives of the Dongling royal family put down their dignity and actively and diligently made friends with the eldest princess. They kept sending countless good things to the eldest princess's mansion, and invited them to drink tea or enjoy flowers every now and then. Today they will come, tomorrow they will that one, for fear of falling behind others and being alienated by the eldest princess. In fact, there is no essential difference between the powerful people of Dezhou and the powerful people of Dongling. The reason why their attitudes are completely different depends entirely on their identities. Because Nan 11 was pregnant, and Rong Yu was injured again during this period, they both stayed in the palace to recuperate. Except for Xiejin and Xianyu Enyao, no one else could enter the Dajhan palace, otherwise they would not be able to avoid clan members. Ladies from aristocratic families would bring their daughters to the palace to see her from time to time, taking the opportunity to please her and gain face for their master or son in the court. Thinking of this, Nan 11 smiled faintly. Fame, fortune, wealth, and splendor, these are the only things people in the world pursue throughout their lives. To praise the superior and to despise the inferior is due to the narrow and selfish nature. Don't take it to heart, and you will be relieved. Xianyuan 11 smiled lightly. She had lived to such an old age, what things had she not experienced? Naturally I won't take it seriously. However, she found that her daughter seemed to have become particularly insightful and wise, and she was so free and easy that it was surprising. No matter how smart a girl of this age is, she definitely doesn't have the temperament of Nan 11. Could it be that being spoiled for a long time and living a happy and satisfying life can really change a person? She looked at Nan 11 with some inquiry. 11 there is nothing special between you and Rong Yu, right? Nan 11 was silent for a moment, then raised her eyebrows as if nothing had happened. Why do you ask, mother? Xianyuan 11 smiled and said, I feel that you are a little different from before. Especially after coming to Dongling, Nan 11 has changed a lot, which makes it hard for people to ignore. It is indeed different. Nan 11 herself feels that she has changed a lot during this period of time. It is not an exaggeration to say that she has been reborn different from the changes after rebirth, but her whole aura has changed. And she knows very well why such a change is caused. The memories that gradually recovered were a blend of Dan Shu's temperament in the previous life, the dignity that she had to maintain after ascending the throne, the gentleness of becoming a mother after becoming pregnant, and her increasing love and tolerance for Rong Yu. These factors merged together, slowly settling the previous impetuousness, making her temperament gradually become calm and gentle. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 437. However, in the final analysis, Nan 11 felt that the fusion of memories from past and present lives accounted for most of it. However, those memories were a secret unique to her and Rong Yu, and it was not convenient to tell her mother. In the past, when I was in the Great Zhou dynasty, I was the daughter of the Prime Minister's mansion, and I could confront the noble lady. Later, I became the regent princess, and I could rely on my status to make myself invincible. Rong Yu's love and tolerance gave me the greatest confidence, so it was inevitable that my temperament would change a little, and my words and deeds would also change accordingly. Nan 11 smiled lightly, her voice calm and gentle. Now that I have arrived in Dongling and become the empress above thousands of people, in addition to the increasingly powerful confidence, there are more responsibilities. Naturally, my behavior and words should be in line with the demeanor of the empress. I can't be as petty as before. Besides, even Rong Yu has become gentle because of the love between men and women. Isn't it normal for me, a little girl, to be smoothed out by love and become peaceful? Xianyuan 11 was silent for a moment. She admitted that she was convinced by Nan 11's words, but she always felt that the reason was far more than that. However, it didn't seem to matter what the real reason was. After all, Nan 11 looked happy at the moment. Her eyebrows and eyes were full of tranquility and tenderness. The look in Rong Yu's eyes when he looked at her made even the most ruthless people feel his deep love. So she had nothing to worry about. As for the current situation of the queen, she didn't have to worry about it. With Rong Yu, the regent of the two countries by her side, there was nothing they couldn't handle. Xianyuan 11 picked up the teacup at hand, sipped the tea silently, and said thoughtfully, 11 Nan 11 raised her eyes. There is something, I don't know if you have noticed. Xianyuan 11 hesitated. There seems to be something strange between Xiejin and Prince Yao. Nan 11's heart skipped a beat for no reason. Mother means. I have heard of the reputation of the ninth son of the Xie family in the imperial capital. Although I don't know much about him, I think I have some vision in judging people, Xianyuan 11 said, and added in time, when I was young and ignorant, I misjudged your father. This is an exception. Nan 11 laughed. Yes, everyone is bound to make mistakes when they are young. Xianyuan 11 got back to the point. Xieju is a domineering person with a rebellious temperament. He always does things as he pleases. As he wished, there was one thing. He always kept aloof from people he had not known for a long time and would not deliberately get close to them. After a pause, once he really gets close to them, it usually means that the person is about to die. Nan 11 was stunned, then shook her head and laughed. Mother, you worry too much. Xiejin will not harm Xianyuan Yao. It is because I did not see his hostility towards Prince Yao that I felt it was strange. Xianyuan 11 frowned slightly. His attitude towards Yao is unusual. Nan 11 was silent for a moment, and said, they used to joke around a lot, regardless of meat or vegetables, and wrong you even made him kneel in court for this. But this should be nothing. Some things become true when you are joking, Xianyuan 11 said in a light tone. Anyway, you should know the situation. Nan 11 frowned. Mother means that Prince Yao is. I see that Yao is a heartless person, so he should not have any thoughts, Xianyuan 11 said, but it's hard to say about Xiejin. Nan 11 pondered for a moment and shook his head slowly. No, Xiejin is a romantic man with countless concubines in the backyard and often lingers in brothels. I have only heard that he flirts with girls, but I have never heard that he likes to share peaches. Hearing this, Xianyuan 11 couldn't help but show some hesitation between his eyebrows. Could it be that I really saw it wrong? Don't think too much, mother. Xiejin appears to be a rebellious and self-willed person, but he is actually loyal. He just regards Prince Yao as a friend. Nan 11 smiled lightly, and Prince Yao's temperament is different from that of the young masters of the imperial capital. He may be more compatible with Xiejin. The two of them are used to joking. Besides, Xiejin is the legitimate son of the family, and Xianyuan Yao is the only son of the king of Huainan. Not to mention that the probability is very small, even if there is a 1 in 10,000 chance, they have to consider the inheritance of the family's incense, the secular perspective and the feelings of the elders. Although the children of noble families can enjoy more glory, fame, and wealth than ordinary people, they are also subject to corresponding rules and constraints. They seem to do whatever they want, but they do whatever they want within the scope allowed by the rules. Regarding the continuation of the family's offspring, Prime Minister Xie will never let Xiejin do whatever he wants. What's more, even the most ordinary man has no courage to bear the reputation of a gay man and endure the criticism of the world. Xianyuan 11 nodded. I hope I'm just being suspicious. After all, if such a thing were to come true, it would definitely cause a sensation in the entire imperial capital. Prime Minister Xie is in a high position and has a great reputation, so he can't afford his son to do such a thing. Xianyuan 11 was persuaded by Nan 11's words and gradually put his mind at ease. However, in the study room on the other side, Rongyu was not so easy to fool. I originally had no intention of interfering in your emotional affairs, but the future of the Xie family and the inheritance of the descendants of the Huainan palace cannot allow anything that shouldn't happen. Rongyu's voice was cold. You and Xianyuan Yao usually bicker and play fun, and I can treat it as a joke, but such jokes will stop from today, and I don't want to hear similar jokes anymore. Xiejin was silent for a moment, and his tone was a little subtle. My lord, are you worried that I will do it for real? Rongyu's voice was indifferent. Things that shouldn't happen should be prevented in advance. Xiejin touched his nose and couldn't help but reflect on whether his recent words and deeds were really misunderstood, or did he really show a misunderstood interest in Xianyuan Yao without realizing it. However, thinking back now, his attitude towards Xianyuan Yao was indeed a little unusual. After all, there was no so-called close friend who could make him want to tease him. From the initial jokes to the habitual jokes, and then later, joking around endlessly. Xiejin lowered his eyes and remained silent for a long time before he said, "Do I need to keep a distance from Prince Yao?" "You can decide the extent yourself." Rong Yu said, "I am just reminding you." Xiejin nodded, "Yes. There is no need to deliberately keep a distance, just don't say anything that shouldn't be said." Xiejin knew it in his heart, but he couldn't help but refute in his heart, is the master too sensitive? He has been a man who has been lingering in the flowers for so many years. What kind of beauties have he not seen? How could he have any thoughts about a man who is also a man? He often joked with the beauties in Qingfeng Pavilion. If they took it seriously every time, wouldn't the backyard be crowded with people? Moreover, although he was used to being unscrupulous, he was not so foolish as to mess with the future of the Xie family. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 438. Rong Yu said calmly, "During this period, focus more on business and go to brothels less." Xiejin wanted to sigh, but still agreed, "Yes." The master himself is self-disciplined, so he asked him to be self-disciplined, but he is no longer a pure young man. Most of the time, he went to brothels for information, not just for habit, but also for women. Rong Yu obviously did not intend to discuss any government affairs on the first day of the new year. The reason why he called Xiejin alone was to remind him to be careful. After a simple reminder, he let him leave. Xian Yuanyao is different from Xiejin. The boy who grew up in the military camp is simpler. He does not have as many thoughts as Xiejin, nor does he have as deep a mansion as Xiejin, and he is not as experienced as Xiejin in dealing with all kinds of people. In the 5 years with Rong Yu, Xian Yuanyao used all his thoughts to study military tactics. It's not that anyone has a good temper, but everyone has different temperaments and styles of doing things. Xiejin can become the most successful minister in the court in the future, while Xian Yuanyao will never be able to match him in political tactics. He is only suitable for leading troops to fight and defend the country. Xiejin can linger in the flowers without getting a single leaf on him. Under his seemingly gentle smile, he may hide the coldest heart, but Xian Yuanyao can never make such a joke. If he is not careful, he may be doomed. Rong Yu will not allow such a thing to happen to his subordinates. Whether Xiejin is joking or really has such thoughts, he must nip it in the bud as soon as possible. In fact, when Rong Yu raised this question, Xiejin was also confused for a moment, but the time was so short that he ignored it without noticing the abnormality, and then subconsciously denied it. But when he stepped out of the gate of the princess's mansion, Xiejin couldn't help thinking of this question again, and then Xian Yuanyao's handsome and bright face naturally appeared in his mind. He thought deeply that if he said that he really had no thoughts about Xian Yuanyao, it might be a bit self-deception. After all, he had never had any so-called interest in a man, but Xian Yuanyao, a young man, just happened to catch his appetite. However, so far, his interest in Xian Yuanyao was limited to arousing his appetite. Although Xiejin was young, he was a man with deep thoughts. He seemed to do things on his own, but he did not do them impulsively. Instead, he had already judged the consequences of doing things before they were done. Rong Yu was the regent of Dezhou and Dongling. He was good at political tactics. His silence did not mean that he knew nothing. In this regard, Xiejin was not much inferior to Rong Yu, so Xiejin actually agreed with Rong Yu's warning to him. Because he first considered the rise and fall of the Xie family, the inheritance of his descendants, and even if these things were not discussed, if something really happened that was criticized, he would be fine, but Xian Yuanyao, the prince, would be criticized by the world, and the reputation of the king of Huainan would be ruined. These were the consequences that he could think of instantly after thinking about them in his mind. Therefore, Rong Yu's warning did serve as a warning to Xiejin. It is said that those who are involved are confused, while those who are on the sidelines can see clearly. Wrong. You noticed the signs earlier and decisively and fiercely strangled them in time. After being reminded by him, Xiejin did realize that he had crossed the line in his words and deeds. It would be good for both him and Xian Yuanyao to stop in time. Otherwise, if this situation is allowed to develop, when it really develops to a level that people cannot control, the consequences will definitely not be too good. Of course, such a bad thing will definitely not be good for Xian Yuanyao. At least Xiejin believes that he will not be swayed by emotions. He naturally thinks so and gives himself extreme confidence. However, Xiejun, who has always been smooth sailing and has never suffered setbacks, has not yet realized that you can be confident at any time in this world, but emotions are something that cannot be controlled by people. Otherwise, his father, who is a romantic and passionate veteran in the love field, would not have fallen into the hands of his mother. It was almost noon when Xiejin came out of the princess's mansion. When he returned home, he saw Xiejun, the eldest son of the Xie family, walking out of the mansion just as he was about to step into the gate. The two bumped into each other and the air was slightly quiet. Although the Xie family had many people, the house was large and there were many courtyards. Normally, Mrs. Xie and the concubines kept to themselves. She didn't care about their regular visits in the morning and evening, nor was she interested in scheming with them. As long as everyone followed the rules of the house and behaved themselves, everyone could live in peace. There was no contact between brothers and sisters. Under normal circumstances, they were busy with their own things, although they didn't know what they were busy with. It was true that they rarely met. Occasionally, they met and bowed their heads to say hello, and on the surface, it seemed peaceful. But how much these sons envied Xiejin in private, probably only they themselves knew. Just like now. Although he hated him so much, Xiejun couldn't help but smile humbly and asked, "Is my ninth brother back?" "Where are you going, brother?" Xiejin put his hands behind his back, curled his lips slightly, and looked at him lazily. "Are you busy recently?" Xiejun smiled faintly. "It's okay. My father is entertaining guests at home today. I have something to go out for." "Something?" "It's rare that brother is still so busy during the new year. It seems that there will be no problem with his bright future." Xiejin raised his eyebrows. "I just heard that brother is looking for a suitable killer recently." Xiejun's expression froze and his face suddenly turned pale. All the business of 30,000 taels was rejected. Xiejin smiled faintly. "Is it because the current market price is too high, or is the killer you hired a coward like you?" Xiejun's face turned pale, and he suddenly felt a chill running up his spine from the soles of his feet. His smile could hardly maintain his composure. "What are you talking about, ninth brother? Why don't I understand?" "It's right that you don't understand." Xiejin stepped into the threshold. His eyebrows were stained with laziness, but his voice was as feminine as the tongue of a poisonous snake. "If you want to find a killer, you have to show your sincerity. It's impossible to find a killer with only 30,000 taels. If you dare to accept it, you should save money quickly." After saying that, he frowned and made a suggestion that sounded more feasible. "How about I lend you some money to make up 100,000 taels?" Xiejun clenched his hands, restrained his uneasiness, and smiled reluctantly. "Ninth brother, you are joking. Why would I hire a killer?" "Who knows?" Xiejin laughed nonchalantly, his beautiful phoenix eyes exuding charming brilliance. "Maybe you want to know how the killer was skinned and killed without a burial place." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 439. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiejun's face paled visibly. Xiejun smiled and walked towards the house calmly and freely, leaving Xiejun standing alone at the gate like a stone sculpture. The cold air in the air scraped his cheeks, and he clearly felt the cold air going straight into his lungs. Xiejin returned to Jinyuan and ordered Wei Wuxian to be called over. The servants served tea, and he reclined lazily on the brocade couch with intricate carvings. Two delicate maids knelt on the soft blanket beside his legs, squeezing his feet and beating his legs with lowered eyebrows and eyes. Xiejin picked up the teacup and took a slow sip. Rong Yu's words seemed to ring in his ears again. I had no intention of interfering with your emotional affairs, but the future of the Xie family and the inheritance of King Huainan's children will not tolerate any interference. Something shouldn't happen. I don't want to hear such jokes again. Tisk. Xiejin shook his head. He originally planned to go to the military camp to see how the guy trained. It seemed that this idea had to be given up temporarily, but he couldn't help but frown. The Lord seems to be really worried that Xian Yuanyao will be tricked and abducted by him. Is he so scary? Although the generals in the military camp were not as fond of playing tricks as the civil servants, they were by no means fools. How could they be deceived so easily? What's more, Xian Yuanyao has obviously kept a distance from him these days. He doesn't dare to say dirty words as much as he did in the first few days of their acquaintance. I don't know whether he was intimidated by Rong Yu's majesty or really frightened by his joke that day. Xiejin couldn't help but sigh when he thought of this. Sir Wei Wuxian walked in and knelt down respectfully to salute. Do you have anything to do with me? Xiejin retracted his thoughts, his eyes fell on him, and he said in a leisurely tone, how is your relationship with your mother? Emotion. Wei Wuxian thought Xiejin wanted to trick him again, but he didn't expect that the first thing he asked was his mother. His thoughts changed slightly, and he replied cautiously and honestly, Wuxian has been dependent on his mother since he was a child, and his relationship is as deep as that of an ordinary mother and son. The dancer has a low status. Even if you have the blood of the king of the Yan kingdom, you will still suffer from her and be trampled and humiliated by others. Xiejin smiled lightly, you don't hate her. Wei Wuxian was silent for a moment and slowly shook his head. As long as the king wants it, all the women in the world can only be chosen by him. Her mother's background as a dancer is not what she wants, and it is not her decision to be favored by the king. Her biggest fault is that she has a beautiful face despite her humble status, but this fault is also not something she can decide by herself, so how can I hate her? The king wants to favor a dancing girl, who has the courage to resist. The world is as big as the king's land. This sentence is never an empty slogan. The Yan kingdom is not large and its national strength is not strong. It cannot compare with the surrounding powerful countries. It even has to rely on the northern border to survive. But even so, for all the people of the Yan kingdom, the power of the king is still supreme. Moreover, there was a powerful national advisor who was the king's right-hand man. He was proficient in all kinds of torturing evil arts. Even the princes and concubines of the Yan kingdom did not dare to be rude to him. When the national master is angry, many people will suffer. She is quite smart and sensible. Xiejin raised the corners of his lips slightly. Is your mother currently trapped in Yangguo's imperial master's mansion? Wei Wuxian stiffened. What he felt at this moment was not only Xiejin's unpredictable temper, but also his almost magical ability. It was less than a month since he came to Dongling. A few days before he was awarded Xiejin by the queen, no one even paid attention to him. He was just put aside casually like an inanimate gift. However, in less than a short time, in 1 month, Xiejin already knew everything about the situation in Yan country. How did he do it? Don't be shocked. Xiejin smiled casually as if he could see what he was thinking. I am the only one in the world that I don't want to know, and there is nothing that I can't know. Wei Wuxian was slightly shocked, lowered his head and said, yes. Mother is currently trapped in the imperial preceptor's mansion. What did the imperial master do to your mother? I did nothing, just planted the mother voodoo in her body. Wei Wuxian said, the mother and child voodoo can control the child voodoo through the mother voodoo, and can also control the mother voodoo through the child voodoo. The two people who were planted with the mother and child voodoo, usually they are relatives or couples with a very deep relationship. If one party is tortured, the other party will also feel the corresponding pain and restrain each other to prevent one of them from feeling betrayal. After a pause, Wei Wuxian added, however, the mother goo is extremely harmful. It will make the mother's face become old and haggard, dull, and she will no longer be young and beautiful as before. Therefore, King Yan has lost interest in his mother, and the national master can be more beautiful, control her well and use her to control me, a chess piece that was sent to another country. Do you hate the imperial master? Wei Wuxian quietly looked at the ground covered with expensive soft carpets. Hate. Hate your father. Hatred. Want revenge. When Wei Wuxian heard this, he fell silent for a moment. He quietly thought about the hidden intention behind Xiejin's question and how many unknown abilities Xiejin had. After weighing the pros and cons, he said, with my power, even if I want to take revenge, I can't do it. The lives of mother and son are in the hands of others. They are essentially two mice with no power to resist. How can we talk about revenge? I don't have anything to do recently, so I am free. I would like to accompany you to do something interesting and challenging. Xiejin smiled lightly. Whoever controls you is controlling. Why don't you let me control your destiny? What do you think? Wei Wuxian raised his eyes. Young master, can you cure the poison? This is not something you need to worry about, Xiejin said calmly. I can free you mother and son from the control of Yangguo's national master and monarch. You no longer have to endure all the ridicule, abuse, and humiliation before, and you no longer have to be servants. I can even give you mother and son the glory and wealth that a great prince of the Yan kingdom should have, and you can also make all those who have bullied your mother and son kneel at your feet to admit their mistakes and beg for mercy, but... With a deep smile on his lips, Xiejin said leisurely, I am not a bodhisattva who can save all sentient beings, so I need to repay my help. Hearing this, Wei Wuxian couldn't help but tighten his hands hanging by his sides. Glory and wealth are not very attractive to him, but freedom is what he longs for. And if he can really make the people who bullied and abused their mother and son pay the due price, even if he will be controlled by others for the rest of his life, I think it's worth it, not to mention that he is already under the control of others and has no choice. It's just that Xiejin is too dangerous. If he agrees to it, it will be like dancing with a snake, and his fate will be unpredictable in the future. However, at least it won't be worse than the current situation. Wei Wuxian was silent for only a moment, then nodded and said softly, I hope my mother will no longer be involved. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 440. Nan 11 and Rong Yu made a rare trip to the eldest princess's mansion. They originally planned to stay and have lunch before returning to the palace. Anyway, they had a break from court for the past 2 days, so they could spend some leisure time back in the palace. However, while Nan 11 was chatting with the eldest princess, the eldest wife of the Su family and the current 6th princess, the second wife of Su's consort, came to visit with their respective daughters. Immediately afterwards, the duke's wife, the concubine, the princesses and wives from the clan, the princesses of various families, and the wives and daughters of the powerful families came to visit one after another. Today is the first day of the new year, and the atmosphere is mainly lively and joyful. The rules are not so strict. There is no need to submit a greeting card in advance for temporary requests. As long as the host agrees, you can be admitted to the house and entertained. So the princess's mansion soon became lively again. Nan 11 was pregnant and getting heavier, and the weather was cold. She was wearing heavy clothes and was too lazy to hang out with too many people, so she and Rong Yu simply hid in the warm pavilion in the plum garden to enjoy their leisure time and admire the noble and beautiful plum blossoms blooming outside the pavilion. The two ladies from the first and second bedrooms of the Su family are here together. I think the scene should be lively. Nan 11 leaned lazily in Rong Yu's arms. Mrs. Zhenqiagong is also here. Fang Lanyi has been in poor health these past 2 days. She should be recovering almost well. It's rare that this lady still has the heart to join in the fun with other ladies, so she doesn't worry about being difficult in front of Princess Wei in the future. Rong Yu's eyebrows were lowered, and he especially liked the way Nan 11 was leaning against him at this moment, with a kind of quiet tranquility that lasted for many years, which was the scene he had wanted to dream about countless nights. At this time, he felt extremely satisfied and fulfilled. Madams from aristocratic families must also start from the interests, he said in a low voice. Although Fang Lanyi is a victim, in the eyes of the world, her reputation has been lost, and she cannot remarry anyone else. She can only commit herself to Xian Yuanyan, but Xian Yuanyan having lost her power, Fang Lanyi has become a joke among many noble ladies. Nan 11 sighed. Although it sounds a bit sad, the world is indeed unfair to women. Putting aside the fact that Fang Lanyi takes the blame and brings it upon herself, it is indeed inevitable that the victim becomes a joke in many cases. What's even more ironic is that when her daughter loses her interest value, Mrs. Zhenqiu can recover from the pain and anger so quickly. For the sake of interests and her husband's future, she puts her daughter's honor and disgrace aside and can't wait to come and follow her. Friendship between the opposing eldest princess. Zhenqiu Gongfu has always been a party member of the Wei Palace, and now Fang Lanyi has become the prospective daughter-in-law of the Wei Palace. She is undoubtedly an in-law in the same boat. The arrival of Nan 11 and Rong Yu not only damaged the interests of the Wei Palace, but also affected the future status of the Zhenqiu Palace. However, today, the Duke of Zhenqiu's wife was able to take the initiative to put aside her status and show her kindness to her opponent's mother. As expected, it was exactly what people often said. There are no permanent friends and no permanent enemies in this world. There are only eternal benefits. Nan 11 caressed her abdomen and said warmly, Rong Yu. The baby will be born in less than 2 months. Nan 11 raised a gentle and expectant smile on her lips. Actually, I quite hope that my first baby will be a daughter. My daughter is a caring little cotton-padded jacket that makes people warm. Heartwarming. In Rong Yu's mind, he pictured a little face that looked exactly like Nan 11, with a pair of short legs wrapped around him for his mother to hug. He pursed his thin lips and said, it's better to give birth to a boy for the first child. It's annoying to have a daughter who can't be beaten or scolded, and has to be carefully coaxed. Give me a boy, Rong Yu said quickly. After the child is born, you can teach him how to manage politics as soon as possible. In a few years, when he is well, we will have a daughter. When your son is not around, let your daughter accompany you. This way it will get boring. Nan 11 was silent. She found that Rong Yu was particularly obsessed with giving birth to his first son, and that he began to cultivate his son after he was born, as if it was not a whim, but a perfect and detailed plan. However, it is they who have the final say on whether it is a boy or a girl. Forget it, this issue has been discussed before. Nan 11 skipped it and said calmly, Rong Yu, what do you think about the broken sleeves? Rong Yu was silent. I don't have any opinion. Don't despise. Won't. Then if someone under your command had such an idea, would you agree? Rong Yu said, are you talking about Xiejin? Nan 11 was surprised and looked up at him. Did you see it too? There are some signs, Rong Yu agreed, but it doesn't seem to be serious at the moment. It should be mostly joking. However, Xiejin has always acted unscrupulously, and the level of joking has exceeded a certain limit. In order to prevent the lie from becoming true in the future, I have warned him. Nan 11 was silent for a moment. It seems that it is not my mother's illusion. She said that Xiejin's attitude was a bit weird. Wrong, you said, emotionally Xian Yuanyao is no match for him, and he cannot be tolerated. Xiejin's temperament is indeed capable of doing anything. Nan 11 laughed. Xie Xiaofu dotes on his son so much that it's a bit ridiculous. Although she said this, she actually knew that Xiejin's temper was definitely not the result of pampering. Xiejin's family had a big house and Xiejin's temperament was the result of Xie Xiaofu's indulgence. She guessed that he deliberately allowed him to dominate the concubines. He grew up in the conspiracy of the emperor, and thus trained him to become a successor to the powerful officials. But training does not mean that he will suffer the consequences. After all, he only has such a precious legitimate son, so he must protect him well. If I had known better, I wouldn't have rewarded those young men to Xiejin. Nan 11 sighed softly. What if he really became a broken sleeve? Would Xie Chief Fu want to kill me? Rong Yu frowned. He doesn't dare. Nan 11 laughed. I was joking. Rong Yu frowned slightly. Xiejin is a normal man. He doesn't have a habit of cutting off his sleeves. You don't have to worry. Nan 11 hummed, but actually she really wanted to ask, if Xiejin turns out to be in love with Xian Yuanyao, will he stop her? But when I said it, I felt really bored. I thought it would be impossible for this kind of thing to happen, let alone whether Rong Yu would stop it. After all, his opinion was not the most important. However, Xie Xiaofu and King Huainan would not be able to pass the test. The two fathers might directly break the legs of their two sons. Nan 11 calmed down and felt that this was not something worth worrying about. Snowflakes seemed to be falling outside the Nuanting pavilion. Nan 11 watched, stood up from Rong Yu's arms, walked to the window and opened it. A gust of cold wind mixed with moisture hit her face. Nan 11 shuddered and closed the window with a snap. It's snowing. She turned to look at Rong Yu. Does the auspicious snow herald a good harvest? Rong Yu walked up to her and put the cloak on her. Want to see the snow? I want to build a snowman. Nan 11 smiled. If the snow can fall until tomorrow morning, we can let Yin Yu and Yin's Huang build a snowman outside the Dajhan Palace.